Everyone, thanks for popping on real quick. We are going to get started in just a minute. Um, just give us a second. Thanks everyone for being a part of this. We appreciate you taking the time to jump on. There's been some big little additional changes. We wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to hear from you. This will be recorded and posted to our website. So please be aware of that. And essentially, what I am going to do is most of you should already know about HOME-ARP. But if you don't, and actually what I may do is I may just go through the supportive services aspect. So I do, um, please forgive me if I'm a little bit frazzled. We've been, as we would like to say at DCA right now, we've been on a sprint. And so we are working to get this rolled out ASAP. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Go. So this is the HOME-ARP website. So if you do go to, I've got to move this that way. So if you go to the DCA website, sorry, I need to go back to Georgia Department of Community Affairs. There we go. And you can go ahead and search the site. Usually I do ARP. And you will go straight to our site. Or at least it'll go to a quick link. So it's right here at the top. And then that'll lead you to our site. So here you will find as much information as we could possibly post at a time, including our mailing list, if I'm assuming most of you are on our mailing list since you're here, and also including just different information around the program. So as you guys know, HOME-ARP, our focus is to serve qualifying populations. And so homelessness is our QP1, our QP2 is at risk of homelessness. So those are individuals that our Office of Homeless and Special Needs usually have helped with regards to prevention services. And or, even kind of those missing services that have not been able to be assisted. So for example, someone who is living in a hotel or motel that they pay for. The domestic violence and trafficking group, which is fleeing domestic violence and trafficking. And so these are the breakdowns of those particular groups according to our regulations. And then any additional populations with unstable housing. So that can be either populations who are at risk of returning back to homelessness, or those who are overburdened in their rent, paying 50% or more of their income toward their rent and or main housing expenses, and they are living at 30% area median income. So that just gives you a really brief overview of who we serve. HOME-ARP is a program. We can do three different types of services. One is non-congregate shelter, and actually we should take this one out, rental housing, and then we are doing supportive services. The tenant-based rental assistance can actually be included in supportive services with short-term and medium-term assistance. So that's just an FYI. And then our agency capacity building, which one of the main things we've done is help bolster our coordinated entry system for the balance of state, as well as instituting the Supportive Housing Institute, which kind of brings together developers and service providers and property managers to provide better supportive housing throughout the state. So why we are here. And actually, you know what, Jody, if you could pull up the diagram that we have real quick, could you send that to me real quick? Because I think that would be useful here. So the first thing with regards to the supportive services aspect, which is why y'all are here, we have updated the notice of funding, and you can go ahead and access that on our supportive services page. And let me actually go back, since I was rather quick where that's concerned. So the HOME-ARP public notices are kind of to the bottom right of the page. We have our non-congregate shelter public notice, our supportive service notice, and then our rental housing with service priorities. And rental housing recently closed, so we're in process of reviewing those applications. And non-congregate shelter will be closing mid-April on the 18th. Okay, 18th. So we're going to go ahead and look at those supportive services. So on this page, we have the new updated draft that was updated on Monday. Then we also have the application, the budget, and then the eligible activity breakdown. So I'm going to go over the first and fourth piece of this information with y'all right now. And so this is the updated draft. And so we actually made the biggest changes. Can you please share the link? Absolutely. That's no worries. That's an easy one. Here you go. So, and that link to the page will get you to everything. If you look at the actual PDF, however, it'll automatically download. So that's just an FYI. It won't actually pull up another page on your website. So some of the main changes that we did make are these grant terms. We did change it to a minimum of $50,000 per applicant and a grant maximum of $250,000 per applicant. And we brought it down from $500,000 just because we figured that there would be more groups that would probably be requesting on the lower end of the request, just because that's what our ESG, what we've awarded with ESG more in the past. And so that just gives you an idea of what kind of that big shift. And then the other shift that we did do is the review process and timeframes. So these are all noted on page 3 and 4. Essentially what we're going to be doing and what we're presenting here is offering to the balance of state. So all of those entities who are in non-HOME-ARP participating jurisdictions. So we're going to take a quick pause. I'm going to take you all the way to the bottom of the NOFO. And under definitions, we have the participating jurisdictions already receiving HOME-ARP funding. So one of the main pieces that we have wanted to focus on with this particular funding is just making sure that we're helping other areas of the state access funding. And so these are all recipients of HOME-ARP funding on their own. And I hope it's big enough for you all. There we go. So what we're doing is for the first batch, we're going to be reviewing and selecting groups who are not in this particular group of participating jurisdictions. So it's like 10, 11, 12, 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There we go. 12 participating jurisdictions. So for example, if you don't see your county there, you see your city, but not your county, it's the city that was awarded and not the county. So outside of the city is totally available. However, if you see the combination of county and city, then the whole county would not be eligible for receiving funding. So just know that that's how we're going about it, just so then that way we make sure that we're accessing other parts of the state with the HOME-ARP funding. So going back to the beginning here, page 3. So what we're going to be doing is, as starting on the 1st of April, supportive services not in a HOME-ARP participating jurisdiction will be reviewed on a first come, first served basis until April 21st. So what does that mean? That means that if you submit an application, we're going to take a look at it, and we're going to start scoring. And we have a threshold of, I guess an overall scoring threshold of 70% or more. So I will go through that in just a moment. And so those who score above 70% will essentially be selected. So you need to show that you have the need, you have the capacity. Again, this is a reimbursable grant, so that's a part of the capacity in order to disseminate the services and participate in this program. So definitely try not to bite off more than you can chew this particular grant, as much as you may want to. So take a look at the whole thing, not just what we're reviewing today, to just better understand it. And then we're going to start with the all-state reviews, which include those participating jurisdictions starting on April 28th. So for all of the applications that we receive that include a participating jurisdiction, we're going to essentially put those to the side, and we're going to be reviewing all the balance of state groups. So those not in a participating jurisdiction first, and we'll be selecting those according to our scoring rubric. And then starting on, everything will close on the 25th, and then starting on the 28th, we're going to review everything. And then we're going to be ranking all the applications from there. So if you have any questions around that, that's why we're here. So we can specify what needs to be completed as far as that aspect. We did also add that for the expanding emergency solutions grant applicants, that you have received ESG funding within the last 3 years. It's just to state that you have been working with ESG at least once, and you've been compliant with HFDD, excuse me, wrong acronym, the Georgia Housing Finance Authority / DCA, with no findings within the last year. So those are the recent adds for that section. And so I feel like I jumped in and then we just updated the timelines. So this is definitely something to review if you're downloading the application. So before I jump into the submission pieces for the review and what that's going to look like, let's pause and see if there are any questions. And if you guys want to raise your hand, I'm going to make sure that we can have you go off chat and ask questions verbally. We're allowing the mic for attendees. And if you want to go on camera, you can do that too. And thank you, Jody, for posting that in the chat. I'm so grateful. I'm going to actually include this real quick to y'all. This is the HOME-ARP process that we recently developed. So it gives you just kind of a visual. This shows the importance of the referral process, affirmatively marketing process. Sorry, not just refer. Well, it's for referrals that you would need to affirmatively market to agencies in your communities who serve our 4 qualifying populations. Then the agency receives referrals from those households, or from the agencies who help those households. Then those are given to you as the HOME-ARP awardee, and you determine their qualifying population eligibility. You put them on a wait list if you need to have a wait list. If you just can serve them right away, great, serve them right away. And then provide the household a HOME-ARP activity, which could be supportive services, the non-congregate shelter, or rental housing. So now I'm going to officially stop. Questions?
I just wanted to say something really quick for the attendees. As far as determining qualifying population eligibility, we have the templates and forms that are required that y'all will have on hand. So it's not something that y'all have to do a whole lot of in-depth research on. We're going to give y'all that information to make this a very easy process across the board for all 3 activities.
Thanks for mentioning that, Jody. And we probably should have done some introductions too. So I just jumped right in. Hi guys, my name's Alona Nagy. I am the HOME-ARP manager, and we are on a sprint to just make sure that we are able to get all these funds out to y'all. And so we're moving forward on disseminating the HOME-ARP funding. So I'm going to turn it over to Jody and Candace to go ahead and introduce themselves too.
My name is Jody Key, and I'm a HOME-ARP specialist, and I am so excited for this opportunity for agencies to really get this funding out to the Georgians who need it the most. I'll turn it over to my fabulous colleague, Candace.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Candace Spicer, and I'm a HOME-ARP specialist here, and ditto to Jody's comments as well, and looking forward to seeing this come to fruition.
Excellent. So are there any questions right now before I jump into the rating scales and things? You know what? Let's take a quick minute. If y'all could put in the chat just the agencies that you're from, so we just get an idea of who's out there in our viewing group. And there's just a few of y'all. And so just 8 of you, which I appreciate it. And we're not going to try and take up too much of your time. Oh, good. The Chatham Savannah Authority on Homelessness. Okay. Hank Johnson's office. Great. Okay, great. Okay, perfect. 9th District. Perfect. Okay. So let me jump into the rest of the overview here. If you guys have any questions around what that is going to look like for your area, also like I said, and that's specifically for additional areas where you guys may be a part of a participating jurisdiction. If you want to submit an application that is for other areas outside of your jurisdiction, that's fine. Just make sure to not include the participating jurisdiction in your application. So I've had, I know 9th District serves a lot of counties and areas up in North Georgia. So if you want to go ahead and state all the areas that you would like to give services to, that'd be awesome. And then if you do serve in a PJ, if you are able to serve in other areas outside of your HOME-ARP participating jurisdiction, then that would be great for an application. And so if you want to be a part of the rolling approvals, essentially, I would probably submit 2. So pretty sure that said that, yeah, that would be possible. So yeah. So moving into the rating factors, the main things that we're going to be looking at, and again, this is the impact percentage. This is how we're weighting each of them. As far as the actual numbers that we're going to be scoring, to each. We're still quickly developing that before Monday or Tuesday, I guess. And so definitely let us know, just really look at these descriptions and make sure that you're building them out. Just showing that you have experience with the activities that serve the vulnerable populations. Include how you're determining the participant eligibility. Again, like Jody said, we're going to be having forums and trainings for y'all on what to do to determine that eligibility, but also if there's any additional assessments that you use and how you assist the individuals that you work with. You demonstrate that the applicant has experience leveraging resources and compliance requirements. So some of those examples would be using ESG, local funding, any COC assistance that you receive out there, CDBG, SAMHSA, things like that. The strength of the project concept, partnerships, and service budgets. So really just kind of letting us know what you want to do, and that you have in this short and quick time planned out really how this is going to look. And so we totally understand that there is a lot of requirements here, but in part it's because we want to make sure that you're really thinking through the process and what implementation is going to look like with your agency. And so just making sure that you are kind of in tune to kind of what your agency does and can do. We're hoping that you are. We're assuming that you are. But then just really expressing that and then just making us aware of how you want to spend out the money and the processes you'll be going through. Data informed local need. I know this may seem maybe kind of small, but it's really important. Essentially, it's just that your communities state that there is a need in this particular area, because obviously a real quick way to make sure that the services and the funding gets used is you have enough people receiving them. So like, for example, making sure that you have, and this is something that no one is going to do, but it is a very obvious example, is buying bus passes for maybe an area that may not, maybe a little bit down the way from a bus line or something like that. So, if that's not something that all of the individuals that you need, that received your services, if they're not, if that's not something that's really available in your area or something that's not relevant, obviously there's no point in doing that. Like I said, that was an extreme example, but I wanted to make sure that you guys are, just in tune to what the needs are and what the data says as far as your needs are. And lastly, just leveraging that funding, just making sure if you're able to use the other pieces of your agency puzzle to make sure that you're utilizing all your resources in order to make sure that everything can get spent well. And I just realized I am not sharing my screen like I thought I was. And so that's probably what was going wrong there. So I just went through this rubric, everyone. It's noted on it starts on page 11 of the NOFO. So go ahead and take a look at that. So I'm going to pause there again. Are there any thoughts, comments, excuse me, any additional viewpoints, ideas? We'll just take a pause. Again, you guys can go off mute and let us know what you think. This is public comment time.
Alona, I said this at the last meeting that we had, but I just want to share it again. The needs assessment is not something that y'all have to go out and spend money on. It's not lost on me that this is common practice for y'all to have to do a needs assessment. But I just wanted to throw out a website that Alona and I both think are very helpful, and it's Community Commons. If y'all have not utilized that before in your needs assessment, you may want to take a look at that.
That's a great idea, Jody. Thank you for posting that in the chat.
My pleasure.
And just letting you know, Community Commons is super useful for a lot of different um, a lot of different types of needs, and essentially is a storehouse of all these great websites and databases, essentially, that you can access, that basically take all of the information from the census plus a lot of other places, and just kind of brings it all together. And so you can go through and you can find, actually what I'll do is I will just bring it up right now, while we are here. And so this is Community Commons, but the great part is that they have maps and data that you can use here, to the left. And there's a lot of different sites. The Spark maps are something I use a lot of. They also have specifics on the economy, education, environment, equity, food, health, housing, mental health, and transportation. So if you're looking for some solid data, this would be the place to access this. Okay. So again, we're going to take a pause. Thanks, Jody, for bringing that up. Okay.
A show of hands, how many on the call are planning on applying for this funding?
That's a really great question. Okay.
Yay. Good deal. That's perfect.
Yeah. We're anticipating somewhere around a total of 40 requests, applications at least, that we hope to fund when you break down the numbers. We have $5.7 million. Some of that money is going to be given. Oh, Ryan, I see your hand up. Just give me a quick second. Some of that money is going to be given to non-congregate shelters for their supportive services, obviously not for operations, but for just supports. And then also a portion is going to be given to our rental housing developments to support those tenants as well. And then the remaining amount is going to be disseminated out to the communities. So hopefully between all those different groups, we'll have a lot of opportunities for y'all. So Ryan, do you have any questions? Do you want to go off mute? I know I can see that you're typing too. So either way, whatever you prefer. And I was just going to.
Hi, I was actually responding to the question about applying. I didn't have a separate question.
Oh, okay. Then we'll take your hand down. That's awesome. Or
Thank
you'll
you.
take your, oh, yeah, no problem. You're all good. Okay, cool. Okay. I was going to pull up PowerPoint. Any other thoughts? Candace, I know that you're new to this, and I hope I haven't stolen too much of your thunder. Candace is really going to be project managing this as we go along. But because she's new, I've been kind of just taking it and running it for a little bit till it's time to hand it over to her. Are there any thoughts that you have around this particular funding, Candace? I was going to call you Janice. I don't know where that came from. Candace?
No, just ready to go when it's time to go. So, and hoping I can be, a kind of a help for everyone trying to get through this process. So,
Which I'm sure, I know that you will be. I know that's going to be all good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this real quick. So I guess the next thing that I'll go through then, since y'all are, and if you guys definitely interrupt me if you have a question. I'm going to actually go back now that I'm thinking about it. Let's go back to the website. And here is also the eligibility breakdown, list of eligible resources. And so if you take a look here, everyone, this is basically directly out of our regulations. So we did not alter any of this. So that way you knew exactly what we would be overseeing as far as compliance of the program. So you were aware. So as you can see, it is very diverse. Childcare, education services, which includes instruction or training in consumer education, health education, substance abuse prevention, literacy, English as a second language, and their GED. So that's receiving their GED if there's anyone in your programs that need support in that area. And then assessments and testing as well. Employment and job training assistance. I know a lot of you work with your regional areas with WIOA or WO Workforce Opportunity, WI. You guys know what I'm talking about. Workforce, the workforce program. Jody's typing it in the chat right now. I just know her. So, and so you can go ahead, everything from employment screening and assessment or testing, books and instructional material for employment and job training, counseling or job coaching even. So there's a lot that you could request. Food, housing search, and counseling services. And it's not just according to the McKinney-Vento requirements, but it's also the HUD housing counseling if you have that in your program. Hey, Sheena, do you have a question? Okay. So we have all of these housing counseling pieces and housing search. So if you're wanting to start even a housing search program, you can. Legal services, some things to note. Legal services for immigration citizenship matters and for issues related to mortgages and home ownership are ineligible. Okay. Retainer fee arrangements and contingency fees arrangements are prohibited. So just make sure that you're also making yourself aware of what is not okay. I was trying to find, let me see, what else was the other thing? So fees based on actual services performed, fee for service are eligible. So there are options here. Also, there is a possibility as far as the financial costs, which we can go down to in just a minute, as far as arrears and housing that's in arrears, we can help pay for. Teaching critical life management skills, which is really interesting. And the budgeting of resources and money management and household management, which is great. Mental health services, outpatient services, outreach services. So let's just pause here for a second. For those entities that are not a part of the outreach programs in your communities, you don't have a coordinated entry system, and you want to start building that out and having more homeless outreach, this is funding that we are trying to prioritize even more with those outreach services. And so if you want to start an outreach program because you haven't already, this would be something to start with those initial funds to help pay for that. So this is the breakdown of what those would look like. And the other thing is that I need to mention is that we cannot duplicate services. So if the person has been receiving a specific service, HOME-ARP can't come in and replace what they've already been receiving. So for example, if you've already been paying for their rent through ESG, you can't use HOME-ARP funds to suddenly take over those payments. If they're receiving childcare from another agency and that is funding their childcare, we cannot come in and, you can't come in and use HOME-ARP funds to usurp that. So just remember that there's really no duplication, and we're going to have to be really aware and kind of zero in on that non-duplication of services piece. That's a really important arena. Substance abuse treatment, which is great. Transportation, awesome. And if you look at this, I think this is a really important one. Payments for car repairs or maintenance on behalf of the program participant. It can't exceed 10% of the Blue Book value of the vehicle. But that is something to consider. And payment for car repairs or maintenance, directly to it must be paid directly to the third party or that repairs or maintains the car. So this is something that you don't always see as far as car repair. That's huge. So, but if you do sign up for something like that, you're going to have a process in place that you make sure that you're overseeing, to make sure that, because we're going to have to be really, we're going to, compliance wise, we're going to have to make sure that we have all the ducks in a row. So just know that if you plan on doing something like that, your financial oversight and things must be really on point to make sure that when we come through with compliance, that everything's aligned. Okay. Case management. So if you guys are wanting to start a new case management program or work with brand new individuals, so I would recommend, if there's a way for you to be very decisive. So if you're wanting to move into a new county, for example, and have case management there, this would be a great opportunity to expand what you're already doing, because you're going to have, it may be the same program to a point, but the individuals are not going to be the same at all. So I would want to make sure that you have a very clean break between programming to show that there isn't even a possibility of duplication of services. Mediation, which is awesome. Credit repair. So we can pay for credit counseling or other services necessary to assist with program participants with critical skills related to household budgeting and maintaining their money. So that's kind of cool. It does not pay. It does not include the payment or modification of debt. So just be aware of that. Landlord and tenant liaison work. So if you're wanting to build out your landlords that you're working with, this would be funding to do that. Services for special populations. So definitely take a look at this and the specifics about getting into those services. Financial assistance. So this is where I kind of wanted to sit for a minute. This can help pay for rental arrears. Again, like I had mentioned, first and last month's rent is a part of this funding, including the utility deposits and utility payments. But just be aware that, again, this is a reimbursable grant. So there would need to be funds that you have available in order to pay that out. And then we would, repay you. The other thing too is I had a thought and it left. So I will find it again. I'm sure it'll come back. Yeah, so that's kind of an overview of the options. We have a list of the ineligible costs as well. Some of them are peppered throughout the requirements too. So just make sure you read through the whole description in order to make sure that you don't miss anything. But this, like I said, is just a copy of what we have in the regulations. It's just an easier access so that we don't have to go through the 100, well, because it's 100 pages of regulations in order to find this information. Housing counseling, like I talked about, and that's it. And I probably should have formatted that better now that I look at it. So we have one little line. Okay, I'm going to pause again and wait. See if there's any comment. We have about 20 more minutes. If y'all don't have questions, or another great thing would be, which I think most of you are probably doing, is just having us to the side as you're working on other things while I ramble on. Thoughts, Jody? Thoughts, Candace, while we wait for Jennifer to finish typing in her comment?
I love the diversity of all the different services that you can provide. I don't know off the top of my head another program that just gives this many opportunities to a provider to be able to assist someone in need like this.
Okay. Absolutely agree. Does the agency have to actually provide the services such as childcare, mental health, counseling, or can the funds be used to pay for those services? The funds can be used to pay for those services. Absolutely. Again, you just need to make sure that you have the financial oversight in order to show that. And so the specifics around that would be showing how you have subcontracted out to those particular areas. So like, let's go to mental health here. So yeah, so you could go ahead. You don't have to do it necessarily directly. We can, if you're helping to pay like a psychologist, that's totally possible. I think we would just need to make sure that the individual is able to really, all the licensure and certifications are up to date. And then there's no conflict of interest. So just making sure that you're not, necessarily, like a, maybe like a spouse or making sure that it's not a conflict of interest between using the HOME-ARP money to pay like family members and things like that. You just need to be cautious about that and have processes in place to make sure that there's no conflict. So yeah, and like for childcare, we need to make sure that the childcare is licensed and that it's reputable and that it's on point. It really depends. I would read through the requirements. We've been working really, focusing on rental housing and the non-congregate shelter. So we're going to delve even more into the descriptions for each of these. So we just encourage you to do the same thing. And so just making sure that you are aware of all the requirements here. And then because that's what we're going to hold you to. And okay, here's another question. Another question is, as long as the client is a new client who we haven't paid for childcare before, would HOME-ARP funds be able to be used to help? Yes. When you look at the duplication of funding pieces in our regulations, which is CPD Notice 2110, what it states is that the person has not received assistance with that particular activity before. So I think the one thing that I would make sure, just to make sure there's no complication and it's super clean, is that they have not received any childcare assistance before. So, even though you haven't paid for them before, have they received assistance from someone else before? So that would be the piece. I would just make sure that it's a super clean break as much as possible. Even though it may be new for you and them, make sure that they haven't received it before from someone else too.
And Alona, will that be determined through HMIS if they, or is that just with their activity for non-congregate shelter?
Excuse me. Okay. I'm not quite clear on your question, but I think I know where you're leaning.
Yeah, my brain, a scattered brain.
No, we're all there.
Is there a system in play to help determine that they have not received a duplication of services in the last few years?
That's a great question. Yes, HMIS is a way to oversee that and follow that. Some of it may just be self-report from the client. There's a lot of different systems in place. I would just, even if there's nothing terribly obvious, I would still make sure that you would be cautious around offering up that service as a duplication. We are going to be using HMIS, by the way. We've been talking with Lakeisha and Jeanette and Josh and their teams around including that. So all supportive service recipients will be required to go through the client track training for our homeless management and information system process. So just be aware of that. That's going to be our main database that we're going to be using for supportive services. So so that was a good question. Do we need to have, so the next question, these are great questions, Jennifer, thank you. Do we need to have a form that they attest that they've never received these services before? Yes, probably, just to make sure we have that in the file and that HUD can see that. And so right now we do have an attestation of their income, but we'll put together an attestation of not receiving services before from any other agency. So we'll put that together for you and make sure that it's a part of your packet of forms. But yeah, for those of you who are doing housing, we definitely have that attestation of their income and what they've and where they're at for self-report. What about okay, so the next question is, what about the DV comparable database? We will have to use HMIS to keep up with these services. Oh, will we have to use HMIS to keep up with these services? Not necessarily. If you're using the DV comparable database, that's okay that it's separate. So if you were already reusing a system that is a part of the coordinated entry, or not coordinated entry, but the COC, the balance of state COC, so the continuum of care, then that's going to be fine. We want you to continue to use the systems with the state that you've already been using. We do not, if you've noticed, we've tried not to make this a one-off. We want it to be consistent with the ESG process. We've been talking a lot with our COC staff to make sure that it's aligned with what they're doing. The one thing that I would have to say is, if you are an agency that's doing domestic violence, some of these services, depending on what the services are, they may need to be offered to the general community. You would really need to think through the process in place, because when we talked with our HUD TA, they had mentioned that the services need to be offered to basically to everyone that it's applicable for. For example, some of the services are just for homeless individuals. Okay. So obviously QP1 is going to really be the only group that it's going to be serving. It's not going to be someone who's at risk of homelessness because they're already housed. It won't be QP4 because, again, they're at risk of homelessness, but they're already housed. So it's mainly around that group, and it cannot be necessarily agency specific unless it's already tied to a rental housing HOME-ARP award or a non-congregate shelter HOME-ARP award. So I would be cautious. So for DV agencies, you may want to just, if you want to use this funding, I would use it for DV services that are noted here. If you want to make sure that for the piece as far as making sure that the individuals that you serve stay safe, because essentially they would have to be used in the community. So if you do want to receive funding, which I encourage you to, I would make sure that it is specific to your population, because it cannot be agency specific. For supportive services only funding, again, if it's tied to one of your developments, if you are developing with us, with HOME-ARP, a rental housing multifamily, property type thing, and there's additional supportive services a part of that can be building specific as well as population specific if that building decides to serve a certain population. And we get that approved from HUD. Or for non-congregate shelter under the same kind of oversight as far as those supportive services tied to that non-congregate shelter. So those can all be wrapped up together. If you have supportive services alone, they need to serve the whole community. Okay, so I know we just opened up a great can of worms. I just responded to your email. Great. Okay, great. Hey there. So what does future funding look like for year over year? Or is there a plan for future funding? That's a great question. And Michaelan, that's a beautiful name. So Michaelan, what that would look like is we would ask you to ask for a multiple funding option. So let's say you ask for $100,000 or you ask for $150,000. And then you show in your budget breakdown, you spending the fund for $50,000 over the course of 3 years. Okay. So $50,000 a year. And how that would look contract wise is we would, give you a grant of $50,000 that would be, that we could re-up annually. We can't do an agreement for more than a year. That's what our legal department has determined. But what we would do is we would automatically recommit that $50,000 for 3 years for you. But we would also need to make sure that you are abiding by like the HOME-ARP rules and that you're being compliant, you're getting everything into HMIS and or the appropriate domestic violence database, and those steps as well. So you would have to build in that future funding now. So just ask for a larger amount, but state how long you'd like to use it. And we have to use all the funds by the beginning of 2030. So I would recommend 4 years or less that you would state that you would need the funds. Okay, good. I'm glad. I feel like sometimes and Jody and Candace can definitely relate to what I'm saying. Sometimes I just feel like I'm talking and explaining so much. And this particular program is, when you start getting into the regulations, it's kind of like a zigzag. We've even had some of our consultants say, yeah, there's parts of it that just don't make a whole lot of sense. I think HUD was really trying to meet like all these specific needs, and they did the best that they could with not knowing how it would turn out. Implementing something brand new can be a little bit difficult.
And I would like to say I'm a compliance person, so I think a lot of your agencies, you're going to need to start building your compliance piece when you're applying for these things. You can feel free to lean on me if you have questions about how to build these things, but my slogan is always more information equals less questions. So sometimes you're going to need to pack your files and say, hey, I might be a little bit over in what I have. But that's going to equal a lot less questions when it comes down to the compliance part. I always tell people I'd rather see an overpacked bag than not having enough. So
that's a great point. I think our slogan, our tagline for HOME-ARP should be, "We're just extra." We're just extra in everything. So yes, that's a great point, Candace. Thanks for bringing that up. I'm really glad you said that. Overpack the bag. And Candace, from your compliance history, here we go. Just real quick, the next question is, are matching funds required? No, they are not required for this program. They are optional. But again, y'all are going to have to show your agency capacity to be able to do this program. So you don't have to match anything, but it is good for you to know, to show and know that y'all have the capacity to really do this program. And so just be aware of that. So, okay. So Candace, what I was going to ask is, from all of your compliance experience and things, is there any, definitely more information is really important. So totally hear you there. Is there anything else that, when building out a request, what kind of compliance pieces or things that you really want to make sure that you would note? How would someone do that as far as making sure they're thinking about compliance at the beginning versus after you've applied?
Based upon looking at from the NOFO, what we talked about initially was eligible cost. And that would be the direct thing I would go to first and foremost, is your eligible costs, and ensuring that you're meeting those, as well as those are things that are ineligible. And I think there was a question in about, what was it? I saw it. I'll go back to the attestation about a person saying if they received services before. Having forms like that when you're initially taking applications, because again, sometimes you're going to miss those things in HMIS and other services. So letting your clients know when they're filling out the attestation that they have not received a service, that there may be a penalty at some point that if they fail to give you the truth about that. So kind of letting people know, hey, up front, hey, this could be a problem for you in the future. Sometimes combats people filling out false information. So it's just, I mean, it's simple as just kind of, like I said, sharing on the front end what you're going to require and what may happen on the back end if that information is not clear. So I honestly would start from the eligible cost and things that are ineligible and honestly build from there. But, like I said,
great.
this is new to everybody, include me somewhat, but I'm here if you need me.
That's perfect. No, that's great. I'm so glad you said that. Um, and okay.
I see that Caitlin Brewster is on with Congressman Hank Johnson's office. So just to put this out here for her or anyone else this may help, I wanted to put the qualifying populations guidance for elected officials. Just may want to lay that across his lap. There's one that I've just shared for elected officials, and then there's also an at a glance one. It's my pleasure, Caitlin. There's also an at a glance one that I can share with you. Now, like I said, we're going to support y'all and give y'all a lot of the compliance pieces that will help y'all to first off to determine who someone is a qualifying population. You're going to have the backup to go with that. We just need your verification. So we're planning for success for anyone who applies for these funds, and I just want to throw whatever kind of guidance I can across your lap to help you take a pause and breathe and know that this is a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah. And we're more than willing to, if any of those representatives just want to know more, definitely reach out. We'll make sure that either our team or the right, our communications team, gets in contact with you to, answer any questions and support. And we're trying hard to make sure this gets done well. So we're at 11:28. So I think there's no one else who's going to pop on, at least not at 11:28. So if y'all have additional questions, let me do one more share real quick. Oops. What you're going to want to do is on the supportive services. Try the share again. Here we go. So on supportive services right here is the public comment form. So go ahead and reach out to us on the public comment form, and you can go ahead and ask any questions that you have around, what we have here. And then that's one of the best ways to reach out and talk to us too. And then you can also, we have our email address. See, here we go. Oh, no, it went way too far. So if you go to the HOME-ARP page, we have our email address up here at homearp@dca.ga.gov. So anyway, so we're gonna wait another minute, but if you guys want to download, you guys may not have access to the chat. So if there's anything here that you want to download, I will wait an extra minute or two for you to click on those links. So then that way you can have access. Oh, thanks, Jody, for posting that. And then that way you can have access to the HUD Exchange and the other documents, and then the office form. Again, if you have any questions around or statements around everything that's developed here, definitely reply to the public comment form. And then, let us know your thoughts. We're here for you. And our next conversation is going to be on Friday afternoon. So for those of you who received the blast, we have all of the list of all of our outreach and our registrations and things on the blast. So definitely check that out. Okay. So if we see you on Friday afternoon, great. If we don't, that's fine too. And we look forward to seeing all of your submissions. Good luck. Thanks all.